I'm Matt Harris of Torn on G4 Tech TV Canada. You're watching Hack 5 with Darren, Ali, and Paul. Did I forget anyone, guys? Nope. Rock on.
The generation coming up can't go learn like I learned. You just can't do it. It's outdated. It's done. Forget it.
Find out how Wes integrates LEDs and spray paint into crap. Paul installs Doom and Linux on nothing. And, oh, Darren uses PHP, Apache, and a cell phone to accomplish Jack. Oh. Today, on a very special Hack 5, the PurePwnage documentary.
Hello, happy hackers, and welcome to another episode of Hack 5. I'm Wes.
I'm Darren.
And this is the season of giving, and we were given the opportunity to go up to Toronto, Canada, and document the just crazy phenomenon that is the live release of a PurePwnage episode.
And if you're not familiar with PurePwnage, you've obviously been living under an internet rock. You need to head over to PurePwnage.com now before you see all these spoilers and check out every episode because it's the best show online. Okay, thanks, bye.
You've got 12 episodes to catch up on, including, we've got a little, possibly some fun, extra fun coming up. So, you know, mom's washing dishes, you know, sis is vacuuming, gather up the whole family. And
time for some karaoke.
Yes, a little sing-along.
So stay tuned for that. Also, at the end of the show, we're going to announce the details about the LAN party that's coming up this month, as well as a possible beta live show, something fun like that. So I guess we will see you on the other side. Let's head up to Toronto and check it out.
Well, the way that we describe it is that PurePwnage is an online television show about internet culture and video games. And it's just really what it is us putting videos online. We shoot videos ourselves with our own gear, and we use the locations around where we live, and we've made up some characters that are what we like to think of as exaggerated versions of ourselves. So I play a film student. I'm interested in film in the show, and my brother Jeremy is interested in video games, and yeah, that's basically what we do.
Well, the show is a mockumentary on the life of an aspiring professional video game player named Jeremy. It's sort of delivered episodically, and I think the reason it's successful, or what makes it really different, is that it's an authentic look at online video game culture, which is something, it's the type of content that audience can't get anywhere else, because if you try to find video game content in media, all you get is crap on MTV. It's written by staff writers. You get stuff like Grandma's Boy, and you get stuff that doesn't in any way represent how gamers actually feel and talk and think and act and what they care about. So that's what PurePwnage does. It fills that void in all the gamers in the world. So yeah.
Well, there's I'm the primary character, actually. I'm the main guy, because I'm always there. I'm the guy behind the camera. But no, the main character is Jeremy, my brother, played by Jarrett Kale. And there's also FPS Doug, the first-person shooter player. And we've got Miranda Plant as Anastasia. And Dave DeWay was also in a few episodes in Season 1.
Alright, Jeremy is the main character. He's the brother of the filmmaker Kyle, who's always behind the camera. And Jeremy is, he's that kid that we've all encountered on internet forums before. I think anyone that's gamed online to any extent has encountered the Jeremy, the lol, raffle lol, noob fag lol kind of contributor to discussion.
Gotta make your replies like quick, right? Like, lol, raffle lol, noob fag lol.
He's that annoying kid that is rude, that always talks about how awesome he is at the game and really prides himself in being good at video games, and can really kick your ass.
Like, you can train like a noob, but he'll just be a trained noob. Like, he won't really be like a pro like me.
Jeremy's particularly funny because he has an accent that a lot of people internationally they think it's a Canadian accent, but the truth is the accent doesn't really exist. The root of the accent, the idea behind it, is that it's a guy who has been essentially raised in front of his computer monitor, and he's learned to talk and type, which is pretty evident by the way he talks and types, in these gaming communities. And he sort of had to learn how to pronounce words on his own, because he didn't really pay attention to school, he doesn't watch movies, and he's not exposed to television and these things that classically train accents into people, and all these little cultural idiosyncrasies that he lacks. And so that's Jeremy. He's got his own accent even. He's a product of his own basement, I guess, and sort of the idea of how someone would turn out if they grew up entirely in that environment.
Kyle is sort of he's a guy that has a little bit more experience with the regular world than I think most of the characters. He's kind of the straight man of the bunch, and he sort of adds an element to the comedy. When you can imagine looking through Kyle's eyes as the show is shot and saying, "Who are these crazy guys?" Like, a lot of times we'll have the characters just do something ridiculous and then stop and look at the camera and say, "Kyle, what's the problem? What's the matter? I always do this. This is normal, right?" But it's of course something very abnormal.
Okay, seriously guys, I knew you guys were geeks, but this is a new level of geek. Like, honestly, you can't be carrying around plastic guns. I really hope that you haven't shown this to anybody.
Give it to Doug.
Seriously, Doug, if you ever want to get a girlfriend, you can't let her know that. Holy shit!
Doug was in episode 3, which is entitled FPS Doug. We introduced the FPS player, the guy that's obsessed with the headshot. And he was a big hit, a very popular character. Of course, a lot of people play FPS.
It's like, I just like to play with people. Huh? Just come on, I can dance all day. I can dance all day. Try to hit me. Come on, try. Boom, headshot. Boom, headshot. Boom, headshot.
I play a lot of FPSs, and Joel in real life plays a lot of FPSs, and he's particularly violent when he loses and whatnot. And I just thought it made so much sense that someone who would play FPS religiously would have to be that sort of super hyperactive ADHD kind of guy that is twitching and very irritable.
Doug, what's going on? Are you okay?
What do you do?
Doug, what's going on?
You know what, Kyle? I think you just better go, dude.
Are you okay?
Just go, man. Seriously, just go.
He walks around in real life as if he were in the game, which is actually a bit rooted off reality, because, and I think a lot of gamers have experienced this, not just me, but when you play a game long enough, if you get so into it and you're playing 18 hours a day for a few days in a row, when you step outside in the real world, you start to perceive it as if it were the game world. You know, you start to wonder if I could build a war factory right there. I bet I could squeeze it in and fit it there, and this and that. And you know, if you play a lot of FPS, you sort of find myself looking around corners and always trying to be behind cover or something. Subconsciously, I find myself doing these weird things. So that's what, you know, we sort of gave that characteristic to Doug, that he's always in some level inside the FPS still, because you know, he plays so religiously.
And you know, he would sort of go around and pretend he's playing the game, like, you know, in some kind of fantasy world where there's violence, but it's still all about a video game. It's not really true violence. You know, we try to keep that line in PurePwnage where, sure, there's guns and knives, and we talk about killing people and shooting them in the head, but it's really, you know, all about video game violence, which I think, in the minds of most gamers, is completely different from actual real-world violence.
And Anastasia, like, it was just the need to bring someone female into the cast. You know, we didn't want this big sausage fest forever, and we thought, what better genre than an MMORPG to have a female play, right? I hope that's not considered sexist when I say that. But it's the truth. Most females that I know that are gamers and play online, they love WoW or EQ or EVO or whatever. They really got into it because it's such a social game, right? The game itself is just about being social in the case of you know, persistent state worlds. And
Jeremy, games are about fun. Don't you have fun playing the games? I mean, don't you have fun playing with me? You get to meet people and chat with them. Like, didn't you have fun making those friends?
Anastasia was a character created before, actually, I had an experience playing MMOs personally, but Jared had played a lot of MMOs, and we wanted to deal with the addictive nature of these types of games. But a lot of people have functional lives in RL while they're playing MMOs. They can have a level 60 in World of Warcraft and still have a day job. But we also wanted to introduce a female character in the show because we needed to have sort of that balance, and we'd like to introduce a love interest for Jeremy as well. So this is also one of the reasons why Anastasia was created.
Hey guys!
Hey girl, what's going on?
Jeremy, you remembered!
Yeah!
Okay, hold on just 1 second, I got you something.
Okay. Go quick, what did I remember?
I don't know. What?
Is it, girl?
Happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you!
yeah, it felt really well. That I think the ultimate skill in an MMO is the ability to chat and persuade people to give you that loot drop. And I know that for a fact, through my personal experience, that girls do very well at persuading guys to give them loot drops and whatnot. So I think the ultimate MMO player has to be a girl, because you need that voice on vent to sweet talk all the guys into giving you that staff of kick ass.
Dave is just Dave. He was living the same place as Jared at the time, and living across the hallway.
He stood in his doorway one day and introduced himself to me, and we just really hit it off. I think the second thing he ever asked me was, "Do you play video games?" And I just got this huge smile on my face. And Dave's a good gamer, and Dave, you know, I'm like, yeah, I play games, and Dave's like, really? Wow, what games do you play? I'm like, I don't know, you know, I like Smash Brothers. And Dave's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, what? He's like, oh yeah, me and my friends play Smash Brothers, you know. And he's like, obviously, like, I own them all. Like, it's like, I'm Asian, you know. He's like, obviously I own them all. And he sort of had this funny, not serious, but it's just Dave. He's got this joking kind of like, as if a white guy's gonna beat me in a fighting game attitude. So we sat down and we played some Smash Brothers for quite a few hours, and after many close calls but no victories by Dave, we were just instant friends, and he had this respect for me that he had finally met a gamer that, you know, he sort of met his match and someone that he could play with. So we spent so many afternoons playing Super Smash Brothers, and we just really hit it off. And I consider now that he's probably my best friend. And
he was helping us film one day. He was actually holding a lamp in episode 2, and Jared said, hey, we've got to put Dave in the show. I was thinking about this funny character that's kind of like a racist Chinese guy, and he talks about white barbarians, and we thought it was a pretty neat concept when we first met Dave. You know, I was like, my name's Dave, right? And we had talked to him about his actual name, Da Wei, which we thought was the coolest name ever. You know, The Wei, all right, Da Wei, really cool name. So we thought, what you know, white barbarians we are to strip him of his real name and label him the bland, boring Dave. You know, that was sort of the joke in episode 3 when we introduced Dave at the end.
So we did that, and Dave helped out. So here's like my buddy Dave here.
Actually, my name is Dwayne, but the white barbarians call me Dave.
Dave's like a pretty funny guy that way sometimes, and it's handy to have him around because he's so funny, you know?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. But, you know, Dave was never an actor, and he's never been comfortable in front of the camera. He didn't really like the effect somewhat of being kind of famous. He walks around a lot, and he's the most in public by far of any of us, because such an active guy. He's in such good health. He just goes running, and you know, he was getting, so obviously he then gets noticed a lot more than anyone, and he didn't really think the effect in his life was all that positive with the show, so he sort of, you know, politely requested that maybe we write him out in a positive way. So that's what we did, but we're still very thankful. You know, the experience of working with Dave was just it's a blast. So hopefully we'll get him for some cameos or something. We'll convince him, I'm sure, eventually. But
the Master, who was also played by me, is played by me just because we couldn't really find anyone else to play him. This was at the time where we wanted to introduce this PurePwnage type character. You know, the guy who's just so good at video games. He can play 4 at a time, right? And he's Jeremy's teacher and our mentor.
Do you mean to imply that you are my strategic equal?
No.
Have you forgotten that I beat both Gary Kasparov and Deep Blue with nothing more than a row of pawns and a single bishop?
No, like, I know.
I will forgive the insult. You are fortunate that I am still willing to share with you my incredibly vast knowledge.
we were sort of in this this transition period where we wanted to expand the audience of the show, and by bringing in different games. So we had FPS Doug, and we had already planned to bring in Miranda as the MMO girl. But we wanted Jeremy more specifically to not be RTS Jeremy, because after the FPS Doug episode, some people were like, oh, so Jeremy's RTS, Doug's FPS, like who are these guys? And we really wanted, the lead in the show not to be so cornered into a specific genre, but we wanted Jeremy, he's sort of the Luke Skywalker of our series, right? So we wanted him to be this ultimate gamer, and then we needed something to change his mind about other types of games.
If one wants to truly own, one must own in all games. Come, we must begin your training immediately.
So we sort of introduced this figure that is his teacher, and the one person in the world that Jeremy treats with respect, I guess. The one guy that maybe he wouldn't hump if he ever managed to defeat him one day or something, I don't know.
I think it worked out really well. We sort of wanted to add that level of proness that is just surreal. And of course, in episode 4, that's the first time where the camera leaves Kyle's sort of hand, and you have the cinematic mode and the black bars. So it's sort of cinema mode. It's the first time we ever cut to cinema, and that's when a lot of people realized, hey, maybe the show's a little bit more fake than I had previously thought.
And we sort of introduced the idea that there is a school, and that the abilities that Jeremy has, are something that are being monitored by, these higher powers or something, or maybe it's being taught.
Remember to use your shortcuts. Let the micro flow through your fingers.
Master, we were attacked.
By whom?
I don't know, but they had weapons and they had training.
It allowed us the opportunity to give Jeremy superhuman abilities, because we created this almost not Hogwarts, but the existence of this place where guys are so good that they can play 4 games at the same time and set world record times. These are guys that that just they take gaming to a completely different level, to the point where it's like fantasy. So yeah, that's to master.
Well, the story so far, we've done 12 episodes, and in the first few episodes we started to introduce our characters. Around episode 6 we started to have sort of boy-girl type stuff going on as we visited different gaming genres, and we dealt with different themes in video games, MMO addiction, LAN tournaments was LAN-ageddon. All the characters go to a LAN tournament.
So we sort of build the characters a bit, and then we get introduced to his teacher and mentor, and the idea of these schools and whatnot, and we started expanding the sort of fantasy gaming element.
Then we've introduced this other sort of fantastic story about the big bad gaming army and the Masters gaming army, and what's going on with that, and having the power of micromanagement. The gamers, if they get good enough at micro, they can have these, fantastic blue ball powers that, have some sort of, harmful effect when they hit somebody, and it's all relatively ambiguous, but we wanted to introduce these elements to add an epicness to the story.
And then in the last few episodes, it all comes together and sort of this. There's a lot of cinematic moments and a lot of epic storytelling, and we really sort of brought out some fantasy elements in the gaming. And I guess in the whole, when you sit back and look at it, it looks like there's sort of a transition from a really grassroots mockumentary into what's become this hybrid mockumentary dramatic comedy that is PurePwnage.
I think initially there was initially people were surprised when we did this, but we kind of I guess we were watching a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer at the time, and we wanted to introduce sort of this world that most people don't know about, but only gamers know about, and there's superpowers involved. So and that allowed us to have epic things like at the end of episode 12, FPS Doug turning to the dark side, kind of. And as Jeremy's in peril, right? We wouldn't have been able to really do that, or if we were sticking to a hyper-realistic environment, and we only had, the worst thing that could happen to Jeremy would be, he could lose in a video game or whatever. But I think it allows us to have this sort of level of excitement in the show that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
But we're never locked into any style. I think season 2 will surprise a lot of people because we have a lot of crazy ideas, and the style is constantly changing, and it's unpredictable.
I was just trying to get some test footage for my editing software, and I borrowed a camera from the University of Toronto Library, and
it was born by accident, I guess. We had. Jeff and I had just moved to Toronto, and we were interested in creating television-style content. We had made a pilot for a TV show back when we lived in Calgary, and we had sort of pitched it around the networks, and we tried to take this traditional path of getting a television show that everyone goes through that's successfully got a television show, and it's a tough path, and I don't think it's the fairest path. Often, it's not merit-based success. It's not really how funny your idea is. It's a lot of times who you know and this and that, and what maybe some older people who couldn't possibly understand the audience that we were making the show for, judging the show, which seemed ridiculous.
And Jarrett came over that day, and he happened to be wearing a bandana and an Uber Gamer shirt. And we were playing a lot of Zero Hour, and we had this idea we had talked about doing a 0 hour show, but it was more like a news show. But Jared sort of started thinking in the direction of a fictional show, and he said, I got this character I was thinking up, I'll do this character. We hadn't even named him yet. So he started talking about 0 hour and his Jeremy accent, and relatively undeveloped Jeremy accent, but it was still the Jeremy accent. And I edited up this footage. We shot it from a few angles and pieced together the dialogue, and he told a story about 0 hour, how he was owning some guy.
Around the time when BitTorrent came about in the computer world, that's when it occurred to us that we could distribute a show regardless of how successful it was. We could distribute it to all of our fans without any concerns about bandwidth or money. And before BitTorrent, if you wanted to give a show that's 200 megabytes to 1 million people, you would need a lot of money and a lot of bandwidth to actually serve that yourself and pay for it. So BitTorrent really is, I think, what allowed independent content creators like us to not worry about the distribution part of it. Just make it and get it out there, and make it and get it out there, which is what we did for PurePwnage, and it worked really well.
And we put that online, and we made it into a preview for a show that didn't exist, and everyone was like, I want to see this show. What is this preview? What is this PurePwnage type thing? And we realized there was a demand for this. It was pretty funny video on its own, but we made episode 1 that was more about the character, more about his life, and everybody liked that. We made episode 2, everyone wanted to see it, our audience kept growing, and pretty soon after that, we realized it was something pretty serious. I suppose the answer is that I always thought we kind of had a hit, but my definition of what a hit was changed as our popularity grew, because of around episode 3 we had tens of thousands of viewers, and I thought that was a hit because I thought, wow, like 50,000 people are watching the show. That's amazing.
Well, I think probably around episode 3, which is pretty early. And it kept being reinforced. Every episode we released, it just became, you know, it was like 90%, 93, 97, 99. By the time we were like 99.9999 by about episode 6 that it hit. And that was just because of the growth.
I always thought of it as being this successful project because I wasn't used to being able to entertain so many people or have so many people interested in my art, especially as a scientist. You know, it was always a hobby type thing, but yeah, it was just that my definition of what a hit had changed, and now, you know, if I had, you know, it's phenomenal to think about when I'm sitting here in this room editing a new episode, and you know, I just think about the stadiums full of people on the internet that want to see it, that are dying, the hardcore fans, and they're emailing us and they're telling us can't wait for the episode, they're talking about it, they're theorizing about the plot and all this. So it's really amazing to think that I'm sitting here in my room by myself editing the episode and seeing things that a lot of people want to see, and you know, a lot of people are interested in what I'm creating. That's a really amazing thing for me. Well, before PurePwnage, well, actually during PurePwnage, during the first 9 episodes, I was in school. So I was studying physics at the University of Toronto, and I was in the last year of my PhD when I quit, just because I really had to work on the show. The show was really taking off, and it was always a dream of mine to work in the entertainment business, but it was sort of a rock star type career, a low chance of actually having a successful career in the entertainment business, right? Who would have thought, right? You know, it's kind of like winning the lottery, trying to get into the music business or the film business. But here we are. We have a hit show, I suppose, on the internet. As far as the internet goes, it's a hit show. And you know, I realized that I really have to run with this, and I really should be working on this full time. And it was my hobby, of course, before, making music, making videos with my friends, and it was a great hobby. I used to play in a lot of bands in Toronto. But at that point, I realized, look, I can make an income with PurePwnage. I might as well run with it and start this company up and start working. So now, I used to be a physicist, and now I make funny videos and sell T-shirts. So it's a funny story. People think when I say that, they're like, oh my god, physics, what the hell does that have to do with music? But it has a lot to do with music, you know, a lot to do with operating a camera as well. I studied optics, and cameras, all lenses and electronics, and so if you can understand mathematics, you can understand the technical parts of filmmaking.
Starting, I guess, after high school, I went into university. I started in physics, actually astrophysics, I guess, and I slowly sort of morphed that into pure math, as that was, I guess, my principal interest that I realized after a couple years of physics. And then a couple more years of math, I started to get disillusioned with academia, and I switched over to computer science, something that seemed a little more practical, that I could at least maybe use for a decent paying job, because all my friends were moving south of the border and making a killing in the .com boom that I felt like I was missing out on. And then a couple more years of computer science and 6 total years of university, I kind of stopped going and started doing stand-up comedy out in Calgary. And yeah, I guess that was the sort of the life-changing experience. You know, after I got on stage once and just sort of felt the rush of the positive reinforcement of the crowd when you make them laugh. And you know, I guess I'd always sort of been the class clown in school and whatnot, and I always really enjoyed making my friends laugh, but I'd never really considered doing that as a career, mostly because I was always pretty good in math and sciences, and when that's the case, and I guess in school you're usually pushed to engineering and pushed to use your talent in math and sciences, and so I'd always ignored, I guess, the performing arts. And then yeah, once I did stand-up once, it was there's really no question after that. The idea of pursuing, you know, computer science as a career, or pursuing any 40-hour-a-week office job as any sort of permanent career just went right out the window. And I just spent some years doing stand-up comedy, moved out to Toronto to pursue that, as it was going pretty well, but you know, you're sort of ceilinged out west. Got to Toronto, started PurePwnage, stopped doing stand-up, and now I'm being interviewed by hak5.
Well, usually Jared and I, we get together after a little bit of a break from the previous episode, and we sort of think about where we want to take the show in the next episode. We usually have some idea of what's going to happen over the entire season in each episode, and we usually have a list of jokes or funny scenes that both of us have thought up. the vast portion of the writing actually happens just from Jarrett turning concepts, general concepts, into his own funny dialogue and adding Jeremy-isms. So,
and I just kind of try to become this character, and then we'd give this character stimuli in the world or whatever, and he would react on his own, almost like it was really a strange experience for me, because I didn't have that much experience with acting, and I still don't, I guess, outside of PurePwnage, but it was something that was kind of new to me. I'd only done stand-up comedy. So I was having a great time just kind of getting in the head of this character and just reacting as he would react. And so that's why I think the dialogue came out so natural, and the whole feel of the show was so hyper-realistic that so many people around the world believe it to be real after the first couple episodes, that he was really a character, because I don't think you could script dialogue that natural. And I think the minute you tried to script it, it would sound very scripted. And
sometimes we will go into a shoot and the script will just be a bunch of concepts. Okay, Jeremy needs to address this fact, needs to address this fact, or this concept, and there's a joke here. Can you sort of improvise around this funny concept? And that's how we usually just roll the camera, and we take the best takes, and sometimes we get some gold stuff just from improv.
But as the show's evolved, we faced the choice again around episode 4, where we had interviewed people on the street, right, in episode 2, and we sort of had this raw mockumentary, and we had to choose, between, do we make that kind of show where I go and interview people on the street all the time, like you've seen, is it going to be like a Borat style format, the buzz, stuff like that, or do we make something with a story, and do we build a universe and really tell a great story? And we both love film, and I love reading books, and I love reading and telling stories. So we opted for that route. So
some scenes are scripted as well, like the FBI scenes, or the government agent scenes, we should call them. Those are scripted, and scenes involving other actors, the cinematic stuff is more heavily scripted. But a lot of the mockumentary stuff is just general concepts and improvisation. Well, Kyle the character sort of takes the directing thing really seriously, so you'll notice he's doing a lot of crazy camera angles in the first season. He's filming Jeremy when he's on the floor, trying to get the cool shot, or telling Jeremy what to do, or whatever. But that's sort of a running joke. It's not really the way that I think about the show. The way I think about it is being very much influenced by shows like Trailer Park Boys and the British version of The Office. I thought those were amazingly funny mockumentaries, and also done on a very low budget. It's great that you can tell stories like these on a low budget. You don't need fancy cameras or whatever, as long as you can explain the fact that the budget is low. It makes sense that Kyle, the film student, wouldn't have a nice camera, so that's how we wrote it in, and we can get away with the first 3 episodes looking sort of noob compared to what we're at now. We name drop a few of the big directors in the show as sort of being Kyle's influence, and so that people that directors that people identify with nowadays. Our audience is relatively young, so they're familiar with people like Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese. But personally, as far as the films that I would like to make after PurePwnage, I think I like doing the cinema in PurePwnage, because that's the kind of movies that I'd like to make. The mockumentary is fun, but really, when it comes down to it, there's a lot of great things you can do with the cinema. With the cinema aspect that I'm trying to sort of practice in PurePwnage. I'm also largely influenced by the Coen brothers there. I love all their movies, and Sam Raimi as well, those guys. But anyway, I'm rambling on.
I guess sometimes making compromises, it hurts. The lack of a budget sometimes, it really sucks when you have a really great idea that can't be realized because you don't have access to the tools that you would have if we had our own Lucas Ranch. Sometimes that sucks, I guess, as a storyteller, that you have to avoid some things.
The hardest part and the most time-consuming part for me is the editing process. Our episodes are now, they're pushing 25 minutes on average, and we keep feeling like we have to top it in terms of length. So really, it's just a question of getting in the zone for me. Usually I edit late at night, and I sort of forget how long I've been editing. So once I can get into that zone, and I usually work a week straight, 18 hours a day on the episode, 5 days in a row or whatever. And that's when I'm in the zone, and that's when editing's easy. But starting that process is pretty difficult. You sit back, you look at all the tapes, you're like, wow, I have to capture all that footage. I got to edit all this stuff together and compose the music and all this. It's really a lot of work, but once I get into it, it goes by pretty quick. And
I guess specific moments that there's no long-term suffering, but that night when you're filming 16 hours straight and it's 5 in the morning, it does really suck, and you really just want to go home and go to sleep. But when I wake up the next day and I think about it, I'm just filled with joy. I'm so glad we did it. It's so rewarding after the fact that it's hard to complain about that. It's really hard to complain about much of it, really. It's a lot of long nights, occasionally doing some really boring stuff. But for the most part, yeah, how could I complain?
Episode 12 was different because 46 minutes long, and that was grueling, very, very grueling. I was sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night, and it was just because there was so much adrenaline. But my body was still functioning, which is amazing. It's an amazing thing that you can function off of 4 hours of sleep or 3 hours of sleep, and put together the episode. So that's what ended up happening. We had it done on time, and I was just, when the adrenaline comes from picturing theaters in Calgary, Toronto, and Vancouver filled with hundreds of people, and there's no episode, right? That would be a disaster. There's no way. It's got to be done. It has to be done. So it ended up being done in the end, and yeah, it was a lot of work.
Oh man, there's so much that's so awesome about it. I think the best part is that I wake up when I want to. I have to set an alarm clock about once a month, and that's usually for some really important event, like a meeting or something that we might have. But other than that, as weird as that sounds, I really don't miss my alarm clock. I really like the fact that I can work my own hours, which often is till 5 in the morning, but that's fine. I go to bed and sleep as long as I want.
The best part has got to be the premieres, the live premieres. It's just amazing. The fans that we have, they come out from everywhere. They drive from I don't know where all over the States. Some of them even plan from Europe, they plan their vacations around PurePwnage episode releases. And the Bloor Cinema in Toronto has got to be the mecca for PurePwnage. That's where everybody goes, who's the hardest core in Eastern North America. And just to show the episode on the big screen and to have the energy of the crowd and to actually finally find out where the laughs are going to be, I think is very rewarding and very interesting thing to sit down and watch with all the excited fans that and there's a pretty wide age range as well. We got little kids showing up. There was actually a 2-year-old girl in the Vancouver premiere with her parents who were big PurePwnage fans that had driven 10 hours to get to the theater, and they were excited.
It's very rewarding to turn your hobby and something that you used to do for fun in your spare time into your source of income, into your job. And it's just a dream come true to wake up in the morning and really think about the fact that writing and producing and acting in the show is what I do. Like, that is my contribution to our society that rewards me with food and housing and all the games I want to play. And I just don't understand how life could get better than that.
Yeah, it's just really amazing. I think, it's just so rewarding to finally, to say, look at all these people. They're here to see what we've created, and it's just, a small group of people, and it's really what the kind of shows that we want to make too. So it's kind of like we're being fans side by side, because PurePwnage is the kind of show that we want to see on television, that we want to see on the internet. We'd like to see this kind of comedy about video games because it's the stuff that we're into. So it's really kind of when I feel like I'm a fan, when all the work's done and I'm sitting in the theater and I'm watching it alongside all these crazy guys that are really excited to be there. That's the most rewarding part.
Do you want to keep your personal information private, away from spammers, hackers, and crazy ex-boyfriends? Private domain registration from GoDaddy.com protects your privacy by keeping your address, phone number, and more out of the public database. Plus, as a fan of hak5, enter code HAK, that's HAK, when you check out for an additional 10% off any order.
expected more pros to be here, but all I see are noobs. Is there anyone here that owns an RTS? Is there anyone here that owns an FP? Jeremy is wasting my time. I must return to my training.
Traveling a bit, and we had a couple shows out in the rest of Canada, and I think that the same idea just sort of resonated constantly no matter where you went, and that's that no audience just touched Toronto at all. Really, I'm not shitting you, I'm not saying that because I'm here, I really do mean it. From the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for I'm just gonna bring my girlfriend out here, if you don't mind. Hey girl, don't be shy. Say hi. I think my brother Kyle's kicking back there somewhere too, if he wants to come out and show his face. We thought we'd start the show tonight with maybe a micro battle. And we've done this before, so what we're going to look for is people that are devoted and dedicated and think they've got some uber micro. And they'd like to come up here and show you how uber their micro is. Do we have anyone willing to show us their micro?
Okay, ready? So we're going to all go at the same time. Everyone's going to do their best micro. Are you guys ready? On the count of 3, 2, 1. Let me see your micro. Decent micro. Arcade style. Alright, I don't know what that is. What is this guy doing? And I want you guys to show me with applause how uber their micro is. Here we go, contestant number 1. Contestant number 2. Nice. Contestant number 3. I think we brought us on the sharing section here. Yeah. Come on, let's hear it. Alright, next contestant. Keyboard guy. is close. It's really, really close. We don't know what to do here. So we're gonna have the top 2 contestants have a micro off. All right. So the rules are no physical contact, micro only, and you face each other. This is a battle. All right. On the count of 3, let me see your micro. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Oh, that's some FPS. Count for some RTS. Break it up. Now that wasn't any kind of micro that I've seen before. All right, what do you think, Jeremy?
What do you guys think? Some new star gift certificates for being such good sports. Alright, so you guys have all seen the micro battle. This isn't the first time we've done it in Toronto, but there's time for something new right now, I think. Yeah, the move headshots. Let's get 3 people from the balcony, 3 people from the back down there. I think they got some dodge skills. So, without jumping around too much, because I don't know how much the stage can handle, I want to see all your guys' best FPS Doug impressions. Are you ready? All right, on the count of 3, 2, 1, FPS Doug. For you guys, you are the champions of the first round. The rest of you guys, just take a seat. All right, you guys. Contestant number 1. Let's see some FPS Doug action.
I can dance all. Whoa, headshot!
Bonus point for the third. All right, contestant number 2.
Whoa, headshot! I can dance.
Guys, contestant number 3.
My name's Matt. Fuck!
Wow, I don't know how we're going to be topping that. Contestant number 4, are you ready? Let's see some Doug. All right, Matt, you are the man. You are Doug. Congratulations. Okay, we're going to do one more thing before we start rolling. The plan for tonight is we're going to be showing episode 11 first because we do not have time for 10, unfortunately. Because it's very disappointing, I can imagine. Episode 12 is so long. Episode 12 is so long, we don't have time for 10.
If you guys want, we could play 10 and then just cut off 12 at the halfway mark and go home. Or we can just play all of 12.
All right, so the plan is 11, have a little break, then episode 12. All right, so the last thing we're going to do, some of you guys may have met this guy named Isaac. Where is Isaac? And you guys, some of you guys may have some kazoos in your possession. They are courtesy of Isaac and his gang. Why don't you guys come up here? All right, so.
Oh, come on, put some soul into it!
All right, guys, so another first ever. We will have a noob song sing-along.
Only like pretty hard stuff, right? Come on, louder! I'm on give me some space. Just like you're like Kyle, and you suck ass at all the game you try to play. Cause I'm on you, I only like pretty hard stuff, right? I'm on you, I only like you're like somebody's mom trying to play the games. I own you. Is that wrong? I don't think. I will own you. Sometime, maybe when we play the game. Noobs, I just like kind of want to let you know that like I totally like own like you, and you may think that like maybe one day like maybe I won't like anymore, but that's wrong. I'm always gonna own you because I'm the owner. It's just what I do. I only like pretty hard stuff, right? Oh, you want some of that? You're someone's mom. Oh, you're begging for the mercy now. I'm gonna give you some spanks. Cause you're a cold noob and you'll suck ass at every game you try to play. Here we go. Oh no. Hello, test. All right, you guys ready for episode 11 or what? Let's get ready to roll that shit. All right. Can we get everybody that has ever been in the show at any point in time up on stage right now, please? There's a lot of people in this audience that have been in the show. Everybody, come on up. Half the audience. Okay, well, we got interview girls here. On the end, we got everything. We got the U of T Game Programming Club here, the guys that were in episode 10, the tech guys. We got Patrick and Orky on the end there. One of Dave's sisters. Patrick is one of the fans, episode 11. We got the FBI people here too, don't we? Here we are, Shannon Beckner, Tal Zimmerman, FBI. We got Geek Girl / amazing vocalist, Linda Gallant there. Mr. George Kovacs, the spy. Gary, I didn't see you here. Why don't you take a step forward? Here's Mulder and Scully here, you guys. Why don't you guys take a bow? And not many people might know this, but here we got David Plant. This is Miranda Plant's dad. I think we
have someone here very special. You may not recognize his face, but you may recognize his voice.
Yes, indeed.
Some goals for the master. And hiding behind is Mark Single, the building a computer guy, and also helps out. All right, who did I miss here? I think I got pretty much everyone. Okay, why don't we take a group bow here, everybody. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this. All right, guys. See you in 2007.
You're playing for your team, and you're playing for this community.
My favorite thing about Bandon is I get to hang out with my friends every day, no matter what, because they live so close.
The generation coming up can't go learn like I learned. It just can't do it. It's outdated. It's done. Forget it.
I think the cult following, the kind of fans that we have, are the best kind of fans, because we really have started this community that's very tight-knit. A lot of people have become good friends because of PurePwnage. So we've sort of brought together people with common interests online, and our forums are very active. We have a lot of community initiatives like the TeamSpeak, servers, IRC ops, and we've got all these people that are sort of working for us to develop this community. We've got the PurePwnage archive, which has a whole bunch of fan art on it. There's a PurePwnage portal, which has basically everything you ever want to know about PurePwnage, stuff that we don't even have on our main page. All the interviews, all the behind-the-scenes stuff we've released and then taken off the main site. You can dig it up from the PurePwnage portal. And this is all of fans that are just trying to, you know, help us out or make somebody else's PurePwnage experience better.
I mean, I think it's really cool that I've actually met a lot of cool people through PurePwnage in the community. It reaffirmed me, it helped me to come to terms with how much of a gamer I am, and that it's cool, and there's tons of people out there that are like me, because, you know, I've just accepted a long time ago I'm a big loser. I just didn't care anymore. But so it's nice to like every day just have hundreds of people writing us emails or MySpace or whatever. They're just talking about how much the show has influenced them, and especially people that have these amazing positive life changes as a result of the show. They've met their girlfriends. I get that a lot. A lot of guys have been hooked up because of PurePwnage episode 10. And that always puts a big smile on my face to know that I'm getting all these other people a lot more laid than I am. It's kind of it's kind of funny, but yeah, I mean, just the devotion of the fans, right, is just amazing, and the impact it has on their life is amazing, and to be positively reinforced like that by people writing you and telling you the amazing change you've made to their life. I mean, yeah, it's just amazing.
But yeah, we're really grateful to those people. That have really made PurePwnage. They've really made the PurePwnage community. We just put up the seed, really. We put up the episodes, we made the forums, but it's really the fans that have created the community themselves.
It feels awesome. It feels really cool, especially me, because I'm not the kind of guy that used to go out or do much or leave my house much. So it's really cool. You know, oh yeah. And, I mean, I guess sometimes it's frustrating. The peeing story is kind of true. I guess, you know, that's happened a couple times, and
Can I qualify that one?
Oh, the yes, you know, just you're at a urinal, and you look at the guy next to you who exchanges glances, and then you can kind of tell immediately when someone recognizes you, because their eyes get kind of wide, and you can almost sense their excitement, and then they'll kind of look at you, and the peeing is a good example, because, you know, just sometimes you're in a situation it's that you don't want to be disturbed, or it's a bit awkward, and that can be bad. But other than that, I mean,
well, because of the nature of the character Kyle, I've been relatively hidden from the public, and no one knew what I looked like until episode 12. Well, there was a few fans that found out with their detective work on the internet, but for the most for the most part, nobody knew what I looked like, except for the people that showed up to the live screening events. And there was actually one incident where I was in a computer store, and the guy working there, I was talking to him about some product, and he said, "You look familiar." And I said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Are you Kyle?" I was expecting him to say, "Oh, well, maybe I was in your class in physics or something," but no, I was getting recognized as Kyle for the first time in a computer store. So that was pretty interesting, though, that he didn't even know my real name. And
it's amazing to be walking down the street and have the 16-year-old kid just run up to me, and he is shaking. He's so excited, and when I start talking, it's like he can't believe it. Like I've made this surreal experience for him, and it's something. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and I'm like, wow, like this could be something that this guy remembers for the rest of his life. Is this amazing moment where he just ran into the owner on the street because he's just losing his mind in front of me. Just his brain is falling out of his ears. So I just give him my time and I talk to him because for no effort on my part, I'm bringing so much joy. It seems my investment versus the return of the total happiness you're bringing in the world. It's like fame gives you this gift where for no investment I can just give out happiness meeting these people, which is why when we do the premieres it's so amazing, and I'll sign every last autograph because just they get so much out of it, and it's just fun for me to give it. Really, what do I lose? So I love it. It really brightens my day. And anytime I get a really excited guy recognize me and he's super pumped, I'm pumped for the rest of the day. I'm thinking, oh man, like that guy just had such a great experience. And sometimes I'm envious. I'm like, I wish the roles were reversed and I just ran into a dude on a show that I loved watching, But, maybe I'll run into Ricky Gervais sometime next week.
But I've since we've been credited, I haven't been recognized yet on the street. Maybe I should spend more time outside because I've been in here doing work on interviews and things like this.
More than we should probably let them. I don't know. We have our ideas for what we want the show to be and where we're going to take it and stuff. But we have this forum community and we have all these fans, and when we release episodes, they talk about it and they talk about it and they, what if this, and they give their very honest opinion. And a lot of people are pretty mean, or pretty honest anyways about what they thought about this episode or that episode, and so it's hard to not be influenced by them when they're telling you that they like or dislike this, and then when a high percentage of them like or dislike this, it makes you think, should we make more future episodes closer to what they like and dislike,
Well, it depends on the particular fan. In fact, some fans we've had in the show, one example is a very active fan, Scree is his name on the boards, and we actually went to the Netherlands. We flew there to surprise him. We had his address because he had bought some noob store gear. And so we showed up at his house with the camera rolling, and his mom answered the door. And we walked in, and he was sitting down watching TV, and the owner and Kyle walk in and say, "Hey, how's it going, Scree?" And he just flipped out. His brain broke, and he was so surprised that we had flown out there to visit him. We surprised a few other fans, and this footage will be on the DVD. It's some great footage of us surprising fans in the Netherlands.
But and especially after 9, when the reception wasn't as positive as we wanted, we had to sit back and think, like, man, should we not have any fantasy elements? But in the end, we really have this great story we want to tell, and it helps if you can just blur that line a bit and just jump into fantasy a little bit. The doors open up, and the freedom you have to tell this great story is there. So in the end, after episode 9, we decided that we read all the input and we appreciate it, but at the end of the day, we have to make the show that we want to make and that we want to watch. So. And
so anyway, we ended up casting him in the role. We said, we got to get you in the show somehow. And this is this episode 11. Jeremy goes to the Netherlands, so we said, hey, you got a red keyboard. It's pretty cool. We should make up a character that has a red keyboard. We'll call him Redboard. And you can fight him, and he's kind of like your training in the Netherlands, where the master sent you to meet up with the Redboard guy and put you through some training. So that's how the keyboard fight was born, and we were lucky that night it was raining, and Scree knew this location with some nice trees alongside the road, and we shot that scene with Scree as Redboard, and he did such a great job. And in fact, the fans that we put in the show do such a great job. They work so hard because they're so excited to be working with you, and it's great. They've done such an amazing job. Like another example is Denwo, guy Jamie and his friend Jay from the UK when they were visiting Canada. We hung out with them because they had been long-time active forum members, and we kind of got to know them on the internet. And we said, hey, you guys should be the castle guards and you should play Tetris against Jeremy. I think that'd be cool. And they just loved doing that too, and they did such a great job. They were perfect for the part. It was nice.
Well, the first premiere was a life-changing experience, I think, for me, and I can almost guarantee for Miranda and Joel as well, and Dave. We were just eating at a restaurant down the street, and we'd expected maybe 50, 100 people to show up. This was like December 2005. And, I think it was just after episode, we were releasing episode 9, we were launching episode 9, and so we left this restaurant, it's like an hour before the show, and we're just walking on the street to get ready, and we get a block from the cinema, and we see this enormous lineup that's extending around the corner and down the block and blocking our back alley entrance into the theater that we were going to use to sneak in. And, I get this call from Jeff as I'm realizing the situation, that all these people showed up to watch this episode, this 22-minute episode, for this internet show. We didn't think that many people would be interested in seeing it, We knew there'd be some super hardcores, but... So I get these frantic calls from Jeff, who's at the theater helping work, because no one knows who he is. No one knows it's Kyle. So he had the freedom to walk around, but the other cast didn't. And so I get this call from Jeff, and he's just like talking a mile a minute, saying, "This is unbelievable. We need help. We need people. Who can I call? Like, oh my God, we're being overrun." Like, it's just, and it was to see that lineup, and then after the show, when it was over, even to step on stage, I've done comedy before to 300 people. There was about 500 there, so it was the biggest room I'd ever stood in front of. And not only that, but they knew who I was, kind of, and they had this love for this character. So when I got on stage, and they started going insane, and that was the first time I got to experience what it would be like if I were to be famous. That's what it would feel like, stepping out in front of those people. Like, I guess that's sort of the reaction. You get this sort of wave hit you of all this energy of people. It's really hard to describe.
Well, the episode 12 premiere was the biggest one, significantly bigger than any of the other ones. It was sort of, the season finale, I think, got a lot of people to come out. And a lot of people have been talking about how great of an experience the premieres were, watching PurePwnage with other PurePwnage fans, and how everyone starts lining up super early, and you get to meet Jeremy and Kyle and Doug and Anastasia. So I think we announced it pretty early, so that people email us, say, hey, you should announce it really early so I can book time off work and I can travel from wherever I am and take a 2-day drive or whatever to come to Toronto. So to accommodate those people, because we want the hardcores to come out, right? To accommodate those people, we announced really, really early, and I think that had a lot to do with how big it was. And it was great. It was the episode was very cinematic, so it worked really well in the theater. And it was we're kind of getting to the point now where we should be doing this everywhere. We can have a theater screening in any major city in North America and have the same turnout. So we're going to try to get organized and organize real tours, and that way we'll be able to meet all the fans all around.
But I got sort of blown away by this wave, and then after the show, I'd go out in the back alley trying to escape the theater, and there's this mob of people from both sides surround me, and there must be 400 people that surround me, and the street's blocked off, and cars can't get by, and there's all this chaos and commotion, and I'm just being swarmed, and I'm signing autographs for an hour and a half, and people are freaking out, and just non-stop pictures being taken, and literally, it was just, I went from being just this guy who played games and whose future wasn't looking up after not finishing school and deciding to do comedy, which isn't exactly a lucrative career, to feeling in that moment like that I was Brad Pitt or something. It was just such a surreal experience. It really fucked with my head.
Another thing about the episode 12 screening was when we first realized that the personal safety of the actors is an issue that we haven't dealt with. Jeremy, after the show, was mobbed by so many fans. He could barely sign autographs, and nobody could get to him. He was blocking traffic. Cars were honking. So I think next time we're going to have to be more professional about it and have handlers and security and things like that. So it's unfortunate that we can't
be all casual like we've been in the past and be like, hey, whatever, we're just regular guys, you want to meet us and chat, whatever. But we're getting to the point now where there's just so many people that want to meet us and chat with us that I'd love to talk to everybody, but there just isn't the time, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, we're trying to deal with it and as best we can and give the fans as great of an experience as we can, because they've traveled, a lot of them have traveled so far to come meet us and talk to us.
And then, when it was all said and done, we went out, had drinks with the fans that night, and everything died down. And then at 3 in the morning, we walk into a restaurant, this nice restaurant in Bloor that's open 24 hours, and it's packed. And I walk in, and nobody knows who I am, right? Because they're no longer the fan show, and bang, back down to earth. That you're not this superstar that you felt like you were an hour before, or a few hours before, but back down to just being the gamer that no one looks at twice. So it's weird experiences.
Well, I think that we are at a very, very special time. We're starting to see sort of this movement of independent media, people just grabbing a camera, starting to produce their own stuff the way we have, producing their own music. High school students getting famous on YouTube and whatnot. And all of this is happening without, or it's all bypassing sort of the standard broadcasters. There's a lot of big companies that are established that hold all the power in the industry. But now I think that's changing.
Well, I think it's the best thing that has happened to artists ever.
And one interesting fact is that established broadcasters are very slow to change, and so it's the ones who are adapting to the technological changes that are going to be very strong in the next few years. And in fact, a lot of companies have been talking about, this is just generally how technology is making it difficult to make money in the music industry or make money in the movie industry in terms of the distribution, because there's so much piracy and people are burning DVDs and downloading music for free. But I think in the case of the small startup company, the independent producer, technology makes it very, very easy to make money in the business or to get into the business of entertainment.
And I can understand why they're scared, because part 2 of what makes it so awesome is that shows now and content are going to succeed. Ones that are consumed via the internet anyways are going to succeed based on their merit.
So you got the old established companies that are sort of being brought down a bit. Their heyday is over, and you've got the independents that can really get into the business in ways that were never possible before. And in fact, I would not be in the entertainment business if it wasn't for the technology that we use, such as the internet, BitTorrent, streaming video, even cheap digital cameras is another big factor, and home studio recording equipment now is being sort of, there's companies that make studio gear and microphones that are now making the lower end stuff for the home studio. A lot of people are building home studios, recording digitally with their computer, which is another big reason why we're able to make the PurePwnage soundtrack and have all the great music that's in PurePwnage. So I think all those factors combined that are all rooted in new technology have made it possible for companies like ours to exist and for us to make a business out of what we want to do, in terms of making art.
We plan to do 3 seasons, so it's not going to live on too long. There's a lot of certain episodes I would expect would have certain stylistic flares, that would be particular to that one episode, not a general change to the whole style of PurePwnage. We're always conscious of our roots, and we know that we don't want to stray too far from where the show started, because the audience watches the show for a reason, and they like what they see, and if you start to just change it completely, then you might find a lot of people aren't interested in watching the show anymore.
Well, the plan is to make 3 seasons and finish it off there, but it depends on the way the story goes. That's the story arc right now. We want to make a nice package, nice DVD set that people will enjoy for a long time. We don't want to wait till the show is fatigued.
Well, see, it's hard to talk about because I don't want to give away too much from the next couple seasons.
We also have plans for a feature film I don't know if we'll get on that, but I always wanted to make Pure Ownage the movie or make some other movie. But what we're doing with our company is we're building up a studio. We're going to remain independent, and we're going to build up a library of equipment that will allow us to reach the production quality of a lot of the digital Hollywood feature films that we're seeing now. Hopefully, all that technology is getting cheaper and cheaper. You know, the camera that George Lucas used in Star Wars Episode 1 is now, it used to be $250,000. Now it's only $100,000 or whatever. And there's other lower-end cameras of the Sony Cine Alta family that hopefully, you know, I look at the pictures of these things on the internet and I drool. But yeah, hopefully one day I'll get my hands on one of those.
I'd expect, you know, increased production quality. Jeff's always getting better at editing. More killer music. Oh yeah, I mean, there will be a PurePwnage movie, unless we die or something. Because if it's not funded by someone else, which I don't think it probably would ever need to be anyways, like, we will be able to make it, because PurePwnage has such a low budget already that to make a film, I mean, episode 12 at 46 minutes is half of the length of a feature film. So it's basically 2 episode 12s is a movie, and just a little bit higher production quality, and that's enough to be in a theater. It's a mockumentary, right? People forgive, you know, the quality of the camera and whatnot. They expect it, or it makes sense in the universe. So to produce a PurePwnage movie would be so cheap that there's no way that we won't afford the time and the equipment in the next couple of years of making PurePwnage. And we're really stoked about that. Either that'll be something after the series, but yeah, we've even talked about putting the movie out, you know, after season 2 or something. Yeah, I'm excited. To the kids that are big fans of Jeremy, I guess the character would be that you should probably be maybe a little more forgiving than Jeremy and treat other gamers with a little more respect, because in reality, people with good attitudes are more well received by the community, and you just have a more pleasant time interacting with the community you're going to have to interact with a lot if you plan to play a game competitively or be an uber gamer. Secondly is practice, 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 practice. Consider your health a bit. I think that's a lot of things gamers don't consider. That would be my Jarrett's advice. And yeah, just don't ever be discouraged. Don't ever think that you're a loser, or that, you know, it's not cool what you're doing, and just, if you love gaming, then do what you love. And I think that advice applies to pretty much anything in life in general. As long as you're not hurting someone else, do what you love to do, and, you know, don't feel bad for it.
I get a lot of messages and personal messages on the board and emails, and people saying, "Hey Kyle / Jeff, I'm interested in filmmaking. You know, what do I do? You want to look at my films or whatever?" But the main piece of advice I give them is, you know, grab a camera, start shooting. You guys are young; you'll have plenty of years for practice projects before you can, you know, before you start getting into anything serious. And really, the way I learned about filmmaking was just watching a lot of movies and going out and shooting stuff and editing it up and seeing what it looks like. So a lot of the lessons I learned were just trial and error. I don't know if that makes me the best filmmaker, but sometimes I wish I had gone to film school now that I am a filmmaker, I suppose. But it's funny that a lot of people look up to me and think I'm some power in the industry, and they think I have some great advice for them, or I can get them in the business or whatever. But really, I'm just a guy with a camera and a home PC, just like you. And I just have a few more years of messing around with that camera and that PC than most of the people that are asking me these questions. So yeah, I just tell them my story. What else can I do?
6. I'm going to use that as the exit.
Okay, so there is the PurePwnage documentary. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that as much as we did making it. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much to Jeff, to Jarrett, to the entire PurePwnage clan, to the production, to everybody for having us up, and all of the fans that waited out in the cold in front of the Bloor Street Theater. It was a blast shooting that. It was just a blast being up there.
And everybody that answered our questions, thank you. Thank you very much for participating.
And we cannot wait for Season 2 of PurePwnage in 2007, so looking forward to that, definitely.
Now, since this whole documentary was about the life of a pro gamer, this is a perfect time to talk about the hak5 LAN party.
Yeah, it's definitely December 15th. We are going to have a special LAN party. It's going to be Unreal Tournament 99, the classic one. So grab yourself a copy of that and join us directly following the hak5 live show beta test.
Yeah, beta, the operative word in that one. There will be technical difficulties, I can assure you.
We got a whole bunch of new equipment. We've got video mixers and like this whole big production broadcast station thingy that we kind of scrounged together the hacker way. Yeah. And we've got to kind of figure out how to use the equipment, how to get live callers and all that fun stuff. So we will have all of the information on the website following up to December 15th. That's when the live show will be.
And like we said, directly following that is the LAN party, which is UT99, like we said. And the LAN party, as always, sponsored by EvoLands.com. Check them out. Great, great game server.
And you know
hosting.
what? Speaking of servers and hosting, this is a perfect opportunity to thank one of the hosts that keeps us on the web, and that is DreamHost. They've been a sponsor of the show for the longest time, and without them, our website wouldn't be anywhere near as uber-elite that it is.
It's a great service. We have like, what, a terabyte of transfer?
2 terabytes of transfer, 20 gigs of storage, and it's got the one-click installs that allowed us to get the wiki,
the WordPress,
forms,
the wiki,
WordPress,
forms, like a bunch of stuff.
Super easy.
Yes, very, very good, reliable service. Also,
and well, it wouldn't be a sponsor plug if I didn't tell you that you could get $25 off the service there if you use the coupon code hak5 at checkout, and that's going to help us out. That's
How silly
help
of us
you out.
to forget.
Exactly.
And as I was about to say, we were talking about the live show on December 9th, Saturday, December 9th, at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's GMT minus 5. I will be doing a live radio show with my buddy Chew. Some of you know Chew, but you don't know Chew. And you're going to have to check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Check out the website, hak5.org, for all the information when that comes up.
Yes, and if this is your first time joining us and you're not really sure what the show is about, it's a show for hackers, for geeks, for gamers, for modders. If you like ripping apart your case and making it blingin', you've got tons of episodes to check out at hak5.org. Click on the episodes link, and we will be there, and you will soon find out why we always remind you. Happy holidays.
Trust your technolust.
So when did you realize that you were a total noob?
That question's not in there, is it?
It's right here, man. You approved the script. It's right there.
Yeah. Is it really?
Yeah.
What? No.
Are you gonna take this seriously or not, man? It's right there. 7th question on the 4th paragraph. When did you realize you were a total noob?
I'm not seeing it on the page.
Are you trying to plead the 5th? Because they don't have the 5th in Canada.
No.
Okay. Sorry.
My balls! Not really, but I think episode 10 is definitely the best. Yeah, because it's filmic, it's the best. So you see it's getting better throughout the series.
You can train a noob, but then he'll just be a trained noob. So that's the FPS Doug headshot. Greatest line.
It'd have to be boom headshot.
But it's moved me in many ways, definitely. Kind of helped me do better in my life, give me the motivation, you know?
It's all about the headshot.
All about the headshot.
Whenever Jeremy owns.
Yeah, definitely when she's ready to 1v1 me in 0 hour.
My favorite moment was the last episode 11, where he's sitting down in a chair doing an interview, and my favorite moment was, wow, it's like the plague.
Your pony died because it wasn't pretty enough. That always
Gets me every time.
You remind me of gay.
Yeah, like when the sheeps were around and he came, he's like, lol, lol.
Oh, there's so many. It's so hard for me to pick. I can't really say because I like everything about the show. Like, I laugh all the time. It's hard to say that.
Lol, chicken lol. When Jeremy goes all emo. That is the funniest thing ever.
The one where they're trying to pick up chicks and Jeremy's telling Kyle about this guy that wants to take him home and he's like, what's an orifice?